All right, we're going to start with the serious stuff.
Okay.
How is your health?
Well, my health is, believe it or not, unbelievable. The doctor, 38 years old, I was telling you that story. Just beautiful girl, 38. So I was kind of leery about that, as I told you. And just before she put that mask on me, I had almost an 80% blockage here in my neck. And I was in Pennsylvania doing a show. And I was, instead of singing this, watching girls go by, I went, watching girls go by. And I went, what's wrong with my brain? And it wasn't connecting with my voice. And I kept stumbling, and I sang happy birthday to this older lady, and I couldn't even do it. So Ronnie Dean, my son, gets up from behind the drums, because he's my drummer, and he said, Dad, are you all right? And Scott, this is verbatim what I said. I said, no, son, I think I'm having a stroke. I mean, I knew.
That was in Oley, Pennsylvania.
Oley, Pennsylvania.
June 21st.
Yeah.
They were live streaming that.
Yes.
People were tuned in, including yours truly, watching it. And I know you pretty well, not as well as your son Ronnie, who's sitting right behind you. But from the time you walked out there, it was about 1,000 degrees, first of all.
Yeah, it was.
And it was in the middle of the day.
Yes.
So it was so hot. But I could tell something is a little off here. Something, I think the heat is too much or whatever, from the first time you walked out. And I could tell Ronnie is keeping a close eye on you. He's watching every move you make. And it went on, and then you went out and you sang the happy birthday, and you could tell he's getting more and more concerned.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the heat, because I know how great shape you've always been in.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there's no way it's nothing more than he's having a heat stroke, which is serious enough, but it's nothing more serious than that. But anyway, Ronnie kind of stopped the show, took you aside, asked you how you were doing. You said you were having a stroke, you thought.
Yeah, I knew I was for some reason. I don't know why, but I literally knew I was having a stroke, but I had no earthly idea this was about 80% blocked, because my family has a history of cholesterol. And when that happens, everybody has cholesterol. Everybody, even when you're young, you have plaque. And so, it just built up. But I mean, Scott, you can't be on this earth 75 years without something breaking down and shaking loose.
Well, let's get a close-up. Let's show your neck right there where they did the surgery.
She said, Ronnie, in 6 months, you won't even know you had that done. Still a little tough there where they cut, but they had to cut me open twice. So when they woke me up the first time, she said, Ronnie, I hate to tell you, but we got to go back. I got to cut you back open. I said, Christine, I hope you're kidding. She goes, Ronnie, you got a blood clot, and we got to cut you back open. I said, okay, put me back to sleep.
And so after you were in the hospital a couple days.
3 days.
In Pennsylvania. Then they sent you home, told you were going to need the surgery.
Well, the doctor came in. He was from South Africa. I had my Vietnam hat on backwards, and I was laying there in the bed. He said, so, son, I understand, I see your Vietnam hat. He said, when was you in Vietnam? I said, 1968. He said, you were in Vietnam in 1968? He said, how is that possible? I said, I know you're going to, I said, Doc, you got my records there. I'm 75. He said, that's just kind of crazy. I said, well, I'm a time traveler.
He didn't believe that you were 75.
He didn't think I was 75. And so when we got out of the hospital that day, me and Tyler drove 12 solid hours up there to get Daddy. And he said, Dad, I would have drove all over the world to pick you up, and they would have. But anyway, we went to my favorite Italian restaurant, and these two old men were going in, and I had my hat on, Vietnam, and I said, come on in here, young fellas, and I held the door for them, and they both had Vietnam hats on. And he looked up at me and he goes, you was in Vietnam? I said, yes, sir. And he said, what year were you there? I said, again, I thought, here we go again. And he said, I said, 1968. How old were you? 18. He said, son, you don't look old enough to be in Vietnam. And I said, thank God.
That is great. So you came home and they said you're going to have the surgery in a week or two?
Well, I asked my doctor, I said, Doc, no offense, but I'd like to go home and have the surgery at Vanderbilt because it's 20 minutes from my house. He said, well, here's why I'm going to let you go home and do it there. I said, why is that? He said, I've been doing this 38 years, son. And he kept calling me son, and I'm thinking, I'm a lot older than this guy. But he said, son, I'm going to let you go home. He said, because you have the strongest heart I've ever listened to in my life. So I'm going to let you go home, but make sure you get it done within the next 30 days because you don't want to have another one where you're incapacitated. I said, well, I will, which I did. Yeah.
During that time in between, were you concerned? Were you worried?
I wasn't. I continued walking and my 2 miles, but Tyler and Ronnie Dean, everybody, Dad, you need to get this done. You need to get this done. They were more concerned about it than me. Actually, after that, while I went to the hospital and I had the stroke, I don't know why, but all that came back to me and I wasn't worried about it. But I knew I needed to get that cleared out. So I'm glad I did. And now I feel like an 18-year-old, but I don't want one.
Threw me this Cashbox magazine.
Yeah.
Whenever all this went down, you got so much publicity. Here's the Cashbox. This is a July issue.
Yeah.
Of this year.
Yeah.
And you got so much publicity. I printed off one and sent to Ronnie Dean of you on Billboard magazine. It was just, it went around the world. You got so much publicity.
Yeah, and we were in that restaurant that afternoon, and Ronnie Dean was looking at this, looking at his phone, and he said, Dad, you ain't gonna believe this. You're in Rolling Stone. You're in New York Times. You're in the New York Post. You're on Fox News. I said, Dad, come, I need to have a stroke every often.
Well, the good thing is you didn't have to die to see what it would be like. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, thank goodness. And everybody kept saying legend this, legend that. So I got to thinking, my next album cover, I've got me some acres, and I'm going to stand out in this field, and I'm going to take a picture, outstanding in his field.
Absolutely, outstanding. Always. You know, being a country star is not easy. In recent years, the same time you had your stroke, Shelley West had a stroke.
I know that she did, and she's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah. Phil Vassar, the last year, he almost killed him.
Yeah.
He recovered fully. Donna Fargo, she survived a number of strokes over the years. Of course, Randy Travis, he had his serious one. So it's being a country star is not an easy
Well, you know, I've told you this many times. I'm not into that star thing. That's a big ball of gas. Who wants to be that?
All right, so 10 years ago, this was 2015, Ronnie McDowell came out with this book, bringing it to you personally, his autobiography, with this in little letters with scouting. So we did this 10 years ago while we're on the subject of your health. So I said, whenever you had your stroke, I said, let me see how this book ended. Because I had kind of forgotten over a decade ago. And the last chapter, and I printed out the highlights. Can you read the last chapter of your book?
I can. Starting where?
The whole, right here.
Oh, yeah. If older women are better, then older men need to stay healthy. As I write this book, I am 65 years old. Unbelievable. I am not ashamed to tell my age, which I'm not. What is my secret to staying young? If you eat right, if you exercise, and if you keep stress out of your life, you will live longer. You'll look better and you'll feel better. It ain't rocket science. That old adage, we are what we eat, that is so true. You know, that is true. I stick by that. I started doing P90X at the age of 65. It is brutal. Everybody thinks I'm insane for doing those workouts, but I love it. I never want to retire. The last thing I want to do is sit on the porch and do nothing. I went to see Tony Bennett perform when he was 87, and he sounded like $1 million. I said right there, that is what want to be doing when I'm 87. I want to be standing on stage somewhere singing older women are beautiful lovers. And boy, that will really fit thinking. I tell everybody, when I'm 90, I'm going to be singing this. Older women are beautiful. Boy, that will mean something then.
You were giving them the secret 10 years ago.
Yeah.
To staying young, the secret to you surviving what you went through this year.
Well, let me just tell you this. Yesterday, I walked 4 miles,
Really?
and I'm back. She said, get back into it. I'm already doing my sit-ups, my push-ups, my curls. I'm back into it. But that's been my lifestyle. In 1977, I want to tell you this story. I was eating plant-based food. Believe it or not, when I was 26, even earlier than that, they had a place in Nashville called the Laughing Man. I was taking my kids there. Everybody thought I was crazy for eating like that, but I still do. So I got on the bus when The King Is Gonna come out. And all my band members, they said, well, Ronnie's on a diet. We're all going to starve. Well, guess what? And it's so sad to me. They're all gone because of lifestyle. Smoking, over drinking, taking stuff they shouldn't have been taking, and eating horrible food and going to sleep. You can't do that. And plus, I really do try to keep stress. I've got a little sign there. I'll show it to you in a minute about being happy. So that's what I try to do. I just be happy. There is so much negative stuff in the world, as we know right now what's going on.
Sure.
And I just love happiness and being happy and just, and I'm at peace at 75. And I'm happy. Like you would not believe. I tell everybody, if you want to be happy, get you a dog.